Hi, this is Roger. I'm just going to have a play with the new feed. Now I'm working sideways on, the camera's sort of behind me over my shoulder, so I'll probably get in its way now and again. I'm just topping this up to roughly the amount I need to do my mounts. It's never measured. These come in set amounts, so normally I would put a full one in and half a one, which is about 3.5 litres. But how much water's in there is irrelevant. Now, somebody came up with a good idea. I've transferred the new feed into here, and in the end, the stuff that was in there was left, which wasn't much. It was down to about there. It was starting to get a bit clumpy, and is also old. So I decided to dump it and start with the new, which I did up incredibly tight. But somebody came up with a bright idea. If you can find a small airtight container and put some in there for daily use, yeah, then this big tub hardly ever has to be opened, which will keep it dry. Yeah, because obviously as it gets lower in there, the volume of air gets bigger, and potentially there's more what do you call it in it, moisture. I'll get there in a minute. So first job is to get some of this out into here for daily use, and I have noticed that there is powder in here. I am hoping and assuming that that is nothing more than some of the granules breaking down, if you know what I mean. I mean, a granule is nothing more than powder with what do you call it, a coating round it that dissolves in water, releasing the powder into the water. I mean, that's all that granules are. So we'll get some in here for daily use. I'm hoping that now I've switched to this, no matter how little or how much I use, it's a uniform fertiliser. I've got no way of proving it. Right, so that's my little bit for daily use. We can now put the lid back on there and leave it closed for a nice long time, hopefully. The less moisture that gets in there, the better, obviously. The moisture will start to break down the granules and whatever. Now I haven't got a clue how much I need. I haven't got a clue. I'm not even going to try looking up the directions or anything like that. I've got a meter. So all I'm going to do is get what I would call a tiny little bit. Now I can judge that over and over again if I have to. I suspect that won't be enough. But there's only one way to find out. First thing I'm interested in is how quickly does it dissolve? I hope I ain't got to be standing there hours trying to wait for the... Well, first thing that happens is the granules go white. I wasn't expecting that. And I suspect they will dissolve quite quickly, I hope. If not, I will have to make allowances for that. You know, put the granules in, walk away, have a coffee and come back when they have dissolved. But at the moment we seem to... Yeah, they've dissolved. That's plenty quick enough for me. I'm all right with that. Now let's see what we've got from that tiny little amount. I suppose it would help if I took the cap off, wouldn't it? That's because my hand's wet. Oh, where's my towel? My hand's just slipping off the cap at the moment. It normally just pops off like that. Right, where were we? Right, that's 75 parts per million. Right, so this can be judged reasonably accurately, because I want it twice that amount. So that's a bit too much probably. I'm trying to put about the same again. We'll try that. Yeah, that should be hopefully around 140, 150, because I've still got something else to go in here. I'll let you know what that is in a minute. This is just the MSU feed, and I'll have to get into the habit of closing the lid, even though you know, the moisture in the air in here is not very great. But better not to push our luck. I'll just measure this. That's still a bit low. That's 115. We need a bit more than that. So we'll have a bit more. Now we'll put the lid on, because I think whatever that comes out as, that's what's going to go. Quite honestly, I don't bother being that accurate. That is airtight. It's got a rubber seal and snap closures down the side, so it is airtight. Even if there was a fraction not dissolved, it wouldn't alter the reading that much, quite honestly. As I say, it's not a science lab, we're feeding plants, for goodness sake. Right, that's gone up to 175. Oh, it's a little higher than I was planning, but you have to bear in mind my mounts haven't had any food and since Friday, and it's Tuesday today, so having it a bit higher, it's not a big deal. Right, thoughts. When I did all my reading on precipitation, calcium nitrate being one of the main offenders, and when it offends, 9 times out of 10, it affects magnesium and has an effect that the magnesium almost becomes non-existent. So for this feed, we're bumping up the magnesium in case it's been down lately. So we're going from 175, that's a sprinkle, and by past experience, that sprinkle should be 30-40 parts per million, which will do. So you can overdose magnesium. If magnesium gets too high in a mix, it will start producing lockout with some of the others. So it's one of the things you shouldn't overdose. I don't think you can overdose calcium. And if you overdose nitrogen, it's not going to kill the plant. You'll just get leggy, strappy, soft, wispy growth. You know, but yeah, some of the elements of fertiliser should not be overcooked to any great extent. So we were at 175, it works better when it's turned on. 175 to 225, yeah, that'll do. Right, so we now have MSU Fertiliser with extra magnesium for this feed. And the next thing I do is go and update my notes, because by the time I finish watering, I'll forgot what the hell I had in here. So that's it. I'm happy that I can judge measurement with this stuff and not be too far out. So it's not going to take weeks and weeks of practice to try and get the dosage right. As I said, there's nothing worse than not having enough, putting a bit more in, and then you've got far too much, then you have to put some more water in, and then you've got a nutrient mix mixed up that's too much for your needs. So it's better if you can get it roughly right each time. And the next thing is, what does this one say? I suspect this will be around 7.1, 7.2. But because I'm using a new feed, it depends what buffering mechanisms it's got in it. And I would say it has got buffers, because that is bang on 7. Now with the other MSU formula, that would have been 7.1 to 7.2 at that parts per million. So yeah, it's got some buffering. Unfortunately, it's not enough. So I've still got to add some pH down, but we'll just put a little bit in. With my mounts, because they're either bare root or in moss, I tend to aim a little high with my pH, so I don't go right down to the sort of 5.5 that some people might do. I tend to try and aim somewhere between 6 and 6.6, 6.7. I'm not interested in absolutely staying below 6.5. It doesn't worry me that it's a little high, as I said, bearing in mind some of them have got moss on them, which is acidic by nature. So as the water goes into the moss would affect it and lower the pH. Bare rooted, not so much, obviously. Right, what have you shot down to? It would help if we used the right one, wouldn't it? So I'm not awake today. Oh, you'll all be pleased the car passed its MOT, so that's all sorted now. Unfortunately, he hasn't fixed the oil warning light, but he's tested all the pressures. There is nothing wrong with the engine or the oil pressure, so it's the sensor. And he said on that particular car you've got to take half the engine out to get at it. So he said it depends what you want to do. Do you want to spend lots of money to get rid of a warning light on the dashboard? And I said at the moment no. Right, that's gone down to 6.3. That'll do. That was a reasonable guess. So this I would class as a lower pH rather than a higher pH, but not as low as I go sometimes. I vary it. You know, that all came from Rick. Swing the pH, swing low, swing high, get the variety in there, and then all the elements get their turn. They get their chance. Makes sense to me, doesn't it? Okay, so I can go ahead and water my mounts now. I expect they'll be hungry. And yeah, I don't expect to see any major difference, but I could do. If I've been getting precipitation in my stock solution, what I'm now going to be doing is releasing all of the elements to be available to the plants, whereas some of them might not have been, or not as good as they should have been. That will take a while for that to actually show any effects, but and as I said, we are heading towards the end of the growing season, but we'll give it a go, see what happens. I'm not adjusting the strength of the feed or the elements within it, technically, but if that stock solution was precipitating in any shape or form, then the plants weren't getting what it says on the label. That's what I'm trying to get rid of, that risk. So that's why. See you next time. Bye for now. On with the watering.